watched in disbelief as my father slapped down a check for $50,000 on the kitchen table, the sound of the paper hitting the wood reverberating in the now still air like the closings of a coffin. The check lay there, crisp and white, mocking me with its bold figures. My heart sank, a lead weight dragging me down into a pit of resentment and despair. The faint smell of burnt toast from breakfast still lingered, mingling with my rising frustration. Did my father not see what he was doing? Did he not feel the sting of favoritism that hung heavy in that small kitchen? My brother's name had become synonymous with excess, and here we were again, my father enabling him, his soft spot for my brother cutting me deeper than any knife ever could. I leaned against the cool counter, my arms crossed tightly, as if trying to shield myself from the emotional impact of what was unfolding before me. My brother lounged at the table, a smugness radiating from him that made my skin crawl. He wore that stupid smirk like a badge of honor, unaware or perhaps uncaring about the rift his entitlement was carving through our family. The light from the window streamed in, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, but all I could see was the shadow forming between us, a gaping chasm that seemed to widen with each stroke of my father's pen. "Dad, are you seriously giving him another handout?" I erupted, unable to contain my voice any longer. It cut through the morning silence like a knife. "What about all the times he's wasted the money you've given him? What have you taught him? That he can fail again and again and you will always be there to bail him out." I felt the heat rising in my cheeks, the familiar swell of anger battling against the hard truth. This was not just about the money. It was about love, respect, and admiration, things that felt like they would always slip through my fingers. My father, usually so steady and strong, paused, his eyes narrowing as he looked at me. "Ella, you don't understand. Your brother is trying to build something meaningful. He just needs a little help to get back on his feet." His voice was calm, almost soothing, but it had the effect of pouring gasoline on my fire. How could he not see that help was not what he needed? This wasn't a hand up. This was a lifeboat for someone who had already sunk the last 5. Meaningful? Dad, what does that even mean when he keeps burning through everyone else's support? I'm the one who has been living in the real world, working hard to keep this family together. My words tumbled out faster than I could think them through, fueled by the boiling frustration that had simmered unanswered for so long. My brother leaned back, crossing his arms, his grin growing. "Oh, come on, Ella. You're just jealous that Dad doesn't support you as much. Just because I took a few risks doesn't mean I don't deserve this." His voice dripped with condescension. He twisted the knife even deeper. "Maybe if you took risks too, he'd invest in you." The accusation hit my heart like a bullet, and I felt a rush of betrayal. How could he be so ignorant to the lengths I had gone to for our family? I opened my mouth to retort, but the hurt choked the words before they could leave my lips. For years I had poured myself into family affairs, from planning my parents' anniversary parties to managing the household budget while he reveled in the bright lights of his pursuits. I had been the glue. I had been the responsible one. Yet here he was, riding high on the winds of his failures, and now, with a mere signature, our father was giving him parachutes, no questions asked. "Ella," my father said, his face softening as he tried to reach me. "You have a good job, you do well for yourself, you do not need this financial support. Your brother is in a different place, he needs more help right now, that's all. Do you hear yourself?" I pressed, a fierce urgency overtaking me as I stood straighter. The tension in my body was electric, ready to snap. "He needs more help because he chooses to squander it. It is not that he needs this money. It is that you refuse to see the damage he is causing to himself and everyone else around him. I am the one dealing with the fallout of his decisions, not him." My brother scoffed, finally sitting up straight, brow furrowing slightly. "Maybe instead of pointing fingers, you should take a look in the mirror. You aren't doing much better if I remember correctly. At least I try to go after my dreams." He was hurling insults now, the anger in his voice loud enough to shake the icicles hanging from the eaves outside. "Chasing dreams, is that what you call it?" I shot back, my tone sharp and biting. "You call throwing money at failures chasing dreams? That's a nice way to romanticize your own lazy decisions." "Lazy?" he echoed, disbelief written all over his face. "You don't know the first thing about what I've worked for. Dad, tell her how hard I've been trying." My father sighed deeply, staring down at the check. "It is hard for everyone out there, son. I know you're struggling. That is why you keep feeding his failures." I interrupted, my voice trembling with emotion. "You think this money will fix things? It won't. It will only make him think it's okay to keep failing. You're not helping him, you are enabling him." My heart raced, hope flickering like a candle in a storm. "Maybe I'm trying to keep this family together," my father finally said, his voice low and taut with tension. "You think I'm taking sides? That is the last thing I want. I just want my children to be happy." "Happiness isn't a $5,000 check on a Tuesday morning," I exclaimed, feeling the lump in my throat threatening to choke me. "It is being responsible, growing up, and accepting the consequences of one's actions." The argument hung in the air like the smell of smoke after a fire. Silence enveloped us, thick and suffocating, as my brother shot me a glance, smirk gone, replaced with a flicker of annoyance. Would he ever see the light, or was this pain only fueled by the system that kept supporting him? My chest heaved from the weight of everything I had contained for so long. I was tired of feeling like I was shouting into a void. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of the check once more. There it was, a piece of paper, a symbol of everything wrong in our family dynamic, the tangible proof of how little my father truly saw me, let alone acknowledged my hard work. The betrayal twisted inside me, making every nerve end tingle. I realized I had to change this. Something had to give. I could no longer stand by, watching unjustified favoritism tear us apart while I lived in the background, working tirelessly to keep everything from unraveling at the seams. The moment that check left my father's hands was the moment I felt a resolve building within me, a determination that the discomfort and anger would not remain my fate. My brother would not go unchallenged. If my father could not see the truth, then maybe it was time for me to become the one to unveil it, to unearth the secrets behind the sham of his happy facade. In time, I would make my father and my brother see how costly this favoritism truly was, not just in dollars but in bonds of trust that once held our family together. As I turned my back to my father and brother, I felt my fists clench. I was tired of being the loyal soldier in this battlefield of family emotions. No more silence. I would fight for my place no matter what it took, because the time for change was now. And I was ready as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange and purple hue across the sky. I often found myself in the confines of my own muddled thoughts, longing for the solace that seemed forever out of reach in our household. The weeks following my father's act of indulgence had turned our family into something unrecognizable, a hollow shell of what it once was. I could hear laughter and the clinking of glasses drifting in from the other room as my brother reveled in the luxury that had suddenly become the norm. It was hard to believe that just months ago, we were a family bound by shared hardships. Now, it felt like I was trapped in a twisted fairy tale where I was cast as the villain in my own life story, while he wore a crown seemingly decked in gold. With every family gathering, each encounter felt like a dagger stabbing straight into my heart, the blade twisted by my father's indifference. They would sit and laugh as my brother regaled them with tales of extravagant trips and wild nights spent celebrating under the stars with people I did not know. The way my father sat there, a proud smile warming his face, while I sat across the table, my chest tight as the air in the room thickened with neglect, was a stark reminder of how shackled I had become. "Look at how far he has come," my father would often say, eyes twinkling with pride. "You should learn a thing or two from him." Those words felt like a death sentence to my self-worth, hanging over me like a dark cloud. As I sat at the dinner table one restless evening, the chaos clattering around me felt unnaturally loud. My brother leaned back in his chair, exuding confidence as he animatedly described a recent trip to a sprawling vineyard, waving his arms wildly like he was orchestrating a symphony. "And when we got there, I just knew I had to taste the finest wine they had, $100 a glass," he exclaimed, his laughter booming, drowning out my internal scream. A fragile smile stretched across his face as he reveled in the shock of our parents, basking in their approval with all the grace of a peacock proudly displaying its feathers. "You should have been there, Ella. It was incredible," he said, turning the spotlight momentarily on me. "Next time you could join us. If you could just let go of that boring budget and enjoy life, maybe you'd see things differently." My heart sank at his words, like a stone plummeting into a chasm of despair. My stomach twisted uncomfortably, a wave of anger mixing with heartache, leaving me gasping for air. "Next time," I managed, my voice almost a whisper, as if the very sound of my discontent might unleash a storm. "You mean if I free fall into the same pit of indulgence without a thought for the consequences? No thanks, I prefer to keep my feet on the ground." I tried to muster the conviction in my words, but as I glanced at my father across the way, his eyes told a different story. They conveyed disappointment rather than understanding. It was as though I were a child again, scolded for saying the wrong thing in a world where everything was wrong. "Maybe if you changed your attitude a little, you would see that life isn't just about stressing over bills and keeping track of every penny," my brother replied, the edge of smugness cutting into my skin. A rage flickered in my chest, a tiny flame that begged to be acknowledged. But where could it go in this setting? My father swiftly cleared his throat, casting a glance at me that said the words he could not utter. "You should be happy for your brother. We are proud of him, no matter how he spends his money. You need to grow up, Ella." A sharp intake of breath caught in my throat, and my heart raced at his words. "So I am supposed to simply sit back and watch as you both celebrate a life I cannot have, a life you've turned your back on me for?" The truth came crashing out like an avalanche, raw, unfiltered, and desperate. My pulse hammered in my ears as I spoke, every word weighing heavy with disdain. "That's not fair," my father began, his brow creased with aggravation. "He is a success, and you need to understand that success comes with sacrifice." "And what about my sacrifices?" I countered, fury boiling over as I felt the world tilt beneath me. I had sacrificed my own well-being for the sake of harmony, but it never sufficed in his eyes. The room, once filled by joviality, felt like it was closing in on me, suffocating in silence. Success is not all parties and fine dining, I continued, my voice growing steadier. I worked hard every day, and where has that effort got me? Nothing. While you ignore me for him, I struggle to keep my head above water. There was a tremor in my tone, a scared child wrestling with a grown-up world that seemed too overpowering. I could feel the flush of heat rising to my cheeks, embarrassment intertwining with my raging emotions. Not ignoring you, my father shot back defensively, shaking his head, dismissing my words like they were mere smoke. You need to wake up. Life isn't about moping around feeling sorry for yourself. It ripped through me, his words cutting deep with the precision of a blade. Then what do you want me to do? Forget I exist, pretend like my struggle does not hurt. My voice wavered, urging a protest against the tenderness in my heart. Ella, my brother piped in, feigning sincerity as he leaned forward. This isn't personal, you just need to loosen up. Maybe if you stopped reading those boring financial articles, you could see the fun we are having. His attempt at kindness only fueled the fire inside me, and my stomach churned. It was hard to tell whether it was anger or betrayal making me feel nauseous. I closed my eyes, memories flickering through like images on an old projector, family gatherings filled with laughter, a father who listened intently when I shared my dreams, love exchanged freely, brushed away like soft petals in the wind. And then there was this, an empty seat beside me where I should have felt valued, cherished. My heart raced as I envisioned revenge, strategies blooming unbidden in my mind. You know what? Enjoy your shallow victories while they last. I exclaimed suddenly, rising to my feet, the chair scraping across the floor in stark contrast to the stillness that enveloped the room. All eyes turned to me, shock clouding their faces. I had bartered away my own dignity for their laughter long enough. One day you'll see how fleeting this all is, and when that happens, don't bother reaching out to me. Ella, wait, my father called after me, but my feet didn't stop. The words were useless, mere echoes in the hallway of my dreams. I no longer wanted to wander. I moved to my room, slamming the door behind me, letting the explosion of emotion fade into silence. With every thud of my heart echoing in my ears, I felt both exhilarated and terrified. I was no longer going to be invisible. The room felt both a refuge and a prison, walls closing in and yet granting me shelter. I stood there, breathing heavily, my emotions swirling tumultuously like colors on a painter's palette. Each brushstroke not blended smoothly but harshly layered over each other until it became a chaotic masterpiece of rage and sorrow. I closed my eyes, the bitterness of betrayal filling my mouth, vowing to myself that I would not let this be the end of my story. In that moment, I felt an ember ignite within me, an insatiable hunger for something greater. Not just revenge, but the restoration of my worth, a reclamation of the respect I felt was stripped away. The table setting of our gatherings would no longer be a banquet of unconcerned laughter at my expense. Something deep within me whispered that the tides were about to turn, and when they did, they would wash away everything that had belittled me. I was done feeling small. The struggle was only beginning, and it would burn brighter than ever before. The lights flickered like fireflies in the backyard as I trudged up the stairs to the second-floor balcony. The laughter from the dining room felt miles away, a distant echo of joy that cut through me with each chuckle. How many times had I begged for just a sliver of that happiness? I glanced back at the dinner table, elegantly set with fine china and polished silverware, glimmering like the glimmers of hope I had clung to all my life. Tonight was the night that would mark a transformation for me, a shift from silence to action. I thought about my brother as my father's proud voice wafted through the air. "Look at my golden boy," he had said with that warmth that always wrapped around my brother like a cashmere sweater. Just graduated top of his class and already snagged a job at that big tech firm. I couldn't be prouder. Each word cut like shards of glass. They were reminders of every trophy, every praise, and every moment that pushed me further into the shadows. I could hear the sweet notes of dessert being served, no doubt something elaborate that cost more than my week's grocery budget. "Did you hear about the new car he's getting?" My father's voice rang out, dripping with indulgence. "A brand new convertible. You know how hard he worked for it." My jaw tightened involuntarily. Beneath the facade of brotherly love, I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me. How could he not see that the expensive car would cost more than my entire savings? I was nursing my student loans alone while he reveled in luxury. That night, I promised myself I wouldn't be a spectator anymore. The fire that ignited in my chest was the fuel for my determination. I wouldn't let this moment slip by. I would gather the proof, pieces of evidence that would unveil the truth behind my brother's lavish lifestyle and reclaim my place in this family. In the days that followed, I became a woman on a mission. The laughter still echoed in my mind like a haunting melody, a stark contrast to my own struggles, those endless shifts at work, the unpaid bills piling up, the shoes that were so worn they squeaked with every step. I had saved some money, but it was never enough. All the while, he was dining at fancy restaurants, where each meal cost more than my monthly rent. I spent my free time digging through old emails, receipts, and photos, the light of my computer screen illuminating my determination. The kitchen was my sanctuary, and the clutter of my brother's ostentatious purchases turned into my battlefield. I set my laptop on the table, opening up various tabs and diving into my archive of his extravagant spending. The warm smell of coffee filled the air as I poured myself a cup. The steam twisted and danced in front of my face, and with each sip I felt more resolute. I found a collection of receipts tucked away in his rarely used suitcase, remnants of trips and dinners that slipped out of my brother's bragging lips when he was feeling brave. "Look at this lobster dinner," he had once smirked, taunting me with the price as if it meant something. I pulled the crumpled papers from their hidden rest and laid them out on the table like a crime scene. Each receipt was a testament to his reckless spending. $75 for a single meal was outrageous. I felt sick to my stomach at how he flaunted it like a trophy. My heart raced as I opened my phone to capture photographs of everything I had gathered. The name of the restaurant flickered on the screen, signaling to anyone who looked just how absurd it was. The swanky dinner had surpassed my entire monthly rent, while I juggled bills like an inexperienced circus performer. I tapped away at my phone, careful to make notes, documenting it all as a meticulous investigator would, a journalist uncovering a scandal. "What's all that?" came a sudden voice from behind me. I froze with my phone in hand. My brother stood there, brow furrowed, arms crossed over his chest. I hated how tall he looked, as if those few extra inches had somehow given him a license to hover over me. "Just cleaning out my stuff," I replied, my voice steady despite the tension that clung to the air like fog. "Cleaning out your stuff, is that all?" he snorted, stepping into the kitchen confidently. "Looks like you're searching for something to complain about again." I clenched my fists. How had he turned my struggles into a joke? "You think it's funny to spend like that while I am buried under debt?" He rolled his eyes, a familiar act that felt like pouring gasoline on my simmering fire. "You should learn to manage your money better." His tone dripped with condescension. "It isn't my fault if you can't keep up." The words hit me with the force of a sledgehammer. A thick silence enveloped us, and I could feel the tension tightening like a noose around my neck. I swallowed hard, my resolve remained, but his arrogance nearly knocked the wind out of me. "I have a plan," I declared, the words spilling out before I could think. "I am gathering proof of your spending. It's ridiculous, and it's time someone held you accountable." His laughter was a sharp bark that filled the kitchen, piercing through the resolve I had nurtured like fragile glass. "Proof? You think anyone will care how much I spend? Look at me, life is good for me." He ran a hand through his hair, eyes sparkling with condescension. "The truth is just waiting to be exposed," I shot back, emboldened yet still rattling inside. "While you flaunt your new car and expensive dinners, I've had to fight for every penny. Do you get how unfair this is?" His smug smile dimmed a fraction but quickly returned. "Maybe if you contributed more you'd feel differently." Anger surged in my veins. My heart pounded furiously, each beat igniting my desire for justice. "What about my contributions to this family? Does working 3 jobs not count for anything? Maybe if you didn't spend so much time sulking and actually tried to enjoy life, you wouldn't be in this mess," he replied, leaving the room with a dismissive wave of his hand. As his footsteps faded, I was left alone in the quiet kitchen, boiling with emotion. The chaos of the evening flooded my thoughts. How could he be so blind to the reality around him? I returned to the clutter on my table, and with fierce tenacity I continued my work. Inch by inch I organized my folders, compiling evidence that illuminated the contrast between our worlds. With every receipt, every photo, I shaped my narrative, piecing together a story that would expose not only his extravagant lifestyle but also my silent suffering. I took breaks from time to time, flashes of doubt creeping in. Would anyone believe me? Would this even change anything? The laughter from the dining room still echoed, and in those moments of uncertainty, it felt like a cruel reminder of everything I was fighting against, but I had to stay focused. I had a mission. A fire ignited within, its heat comforting against the chill of betrayal as I plunged back into my task. That dining table and our family dinner may have been filled with laughter that night, but my plan would turn the tides. I gathered more receipts, taking photos and typing notes. I felt like a detective gathering evidence in a high-stakes heist movie, adrenaline surging with each click of my camera. Outside, the dusk deepened into night, and the stars appeared one by one as if they bore witness to my metamorphosis. Each twinkle reflected my growing resolve, urging me to continue. I glanced in the mirror and barely recognized myself. The girl who once sat quietly in the corner was shedding her skin, morphing into something stronger. The mere thought of standing up to my father and brother exhilarated me, the woman I could become rising from the ashes of my self-doubt. It was more than just about the evidence. It was about reclaiming my voice, about saying enough is enough. As fear began to dissipate, excitement filled the corners of my heart. Soon I would confront my family with undeniable proof and perhaps find the respect I had long desired. I exhaled deeply, letting a fresh perspective wash over me. I was done hiding and ready to reclaim my place, not just as an afterthought but as the fierce, unapologetic sister who refused to be ignored any longer. This was my breaking point, and nothing would hold me back. The charade demanded an end, and I was just getting started. The dining table sat in the center of the room like an ominous stage, all polished wood and sharp angles, reflecting the dim chandelier light above. The air was thick with the smell of my mother's famous roast chicken, the aroma winding through the house as though it demanded attention. But tonight my appetite had fled. I could feel my heart pounding against my ribcage, a relentless drummer signaling my trepidation. I had spent days preparing for this moment, and as I looked around the table at the two men I had known my whole life, doubt crept in like a dark shadow. "Can I say something before we eat?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly, betraying my nerves. My father looked up from his spot at the head of the table, raising an eyebrow. My brother sat across from him, his fork paused midair, glancing at me with a mixture of intrigue and annoyance. The clinking of cutlery fell silent, and I could feel the weight of their attention descend on me. "Sure, Ella, go ahead," my father replied, a hint of impatience in his tone. I took a breath, steeling myself. "I need to discuss something important, something that has been bothering me for a long time." My hands were clammy, and I could feel the edges of the receipts that I had forthished carefully, now crumpling slightly in my grasp. The paper felt like a foreign object in my hands, so loaded with significance. I swallowed hard, scanning their faces, my father's angled features, the crinkles at the corners of his eyes, and my brother's relaxed stance that betrayed an underlying tension. "Is this about the garden again?" "We could just hire a gardener, you know," my brother interjected dismissively, trying to wave me off. But I was not talking about the garden or any trivial matters. I could feel the entire table tremble under the enormity of what I was about to reveal. "No, this is not about the garden," I said firmly, slicing through the air with conviction. "This is about your spending, about how you have handled Dad's finances." In that moment, my brother's expression shifted from casual indifference to a jagged line of defensiveness, and my father's brow furrowed with confusion. "What are you talking about?" my brother shot back, a slight edge creeping into his voice. "I don't have any issues with money, I'm just living my life." I could feel the anger bubbling beneath my skin. Living your life has meant draining every last bit of support Dad has offered. Look at this." I pulled the first receipt from the pile, feeling the crispness of the paper slide between my fingers. I slammed it down on the table, the sound echoing in the heavy silence. "What is this?" my father asked, his brow now furrowed deeply as he leaned forward. "That is the receipt for the newest car you decided to buy without even discussing it. Isn't that right? A lavish car instead of saving up for a place of your own. Don't you think it's a little extravagant?" My words hung in the air, heavy with accusation. I felt a tremor run through me while my father's expression morphed from confusion to dawning realization. "I mean, I needed something reliable." My brother's voice cracked slightly, and he looked away, attempting to pull his bravado back around him. "No, you needed a status symbol." As I spoke, I felt the heat of my anger thawing the ice-cold loneliness within me. And this doesn't stop there. With newfound determination, I yanked out a series of photographs neatly stacked behind the receipts. Pictures of extravagant vacations my brother had taken with friends while pretending to be trying to get his life together back home. I knew I had to prepare for this moment to take him down, and the evidence I had collected was now ready to unfold like a damning tapestry. "Ella, you're being dramatic," my brother grunted, but the words fell flat, too desperate. "Dramatic? This is reality." I shot back, feeling that familiar rush of adrenaline coursing through me. "You have turned our father's savings into your playground. Look at these." I twirled the photos on the table as if showing off trophies, waiting for either one of them to see the truth I was laying bare at their feet. This was taken in Bali. In that, I pointed to a photo of my brother lounging on a beach chair with a drink in hand. "It was on a trip you took last summer while Dad was working double shifts to support us." The weight of my words pressed against the silence, and my brother's face fell, pallid under the unforgiving glare of the kitchen light. "Why are you trying to turn this against me?" he snapped, bitterness clawing at his voice. "I didn't ask Dad for all this. I have my own life to figure out." "But you've used Dad as a safety net without any regard for the sacrifices he has made," I asserted, gesturing towards my father who sat frozen in place. The blood had drained from his face, a realization seeping in as he began to connect the dots I was laying out before him. I turned my attention back to my father, whose expression was a whirlwind of confusion and hurt. "I did this for you, Dad. You have lent him money over and over, believing he would improve. But instead, he has taken advantage of your kindness." "That's not true. I thought I was helping him." His voice rose sharply, laced with defensiveness. "I believed in him. I could not have known he would mismanage it." Did you really think that, or did you just want to believe the best? I pressed, letting desperation seep into my words. You can't keep covering for him, Dad. He's broken your trust. The table felt like a battleground, the battle for truth versus loyalty, for responsibility versus recklessness. Enough, my brother burst out, slamming his hand on the table, rattling the glasses that sat precariously close to the edge. I am not the problem here. You are so busy pointing fingers you don't even see how much stress you're causing. My heart raced. Was it stress I was causing, or was it the shame of having his wild ways mirrored back in front of our father? You can't pretend this is about me, I shouted. You're the one who has gambled away our family's peace. Their faces reflected the emotional upheaval that rang out in the room, my father's eyes stormy with turmoil, my brother's fury blossoming into deep-seated anger. The tension had shifted, twisting the air into something heavy and electric. Is that really how you see me? My brother's tone dropped to a whisper, almost pleading, yet laced with an undercurrent of aggression. You think I've done this just to hurt you? It's not about you wanting to hurt me, I said quietly, forcing myself to look him in the eye. It's about you not giving a damn about the damage you've caused. I do care. You think I enjoy wasting money. You think I like knowing I'm the family screw-up. His fingers dug into the table, knuckles white as a storm brewed behind his eyes. I think you enjoy living without consequences, I shot back, peering straight through his facade. And that's the problem. The words unleashed an unseen pressure that had been brewing for far too long. The room fell into silence once again, reverberating with palpable tension. I could sense my father's bewilderment, his internal conflict etched across his face like a map. Suddenly he stood, gripping the edge of the table. I never thought he would. His voice trailed away, his world suddenly shattering around him, leaving only fragments of false beliefs hovering in his mind. I'm not the one who made the decisions, my brother spat. You don't know what it's like. I didn't ask to be in this situation. But the cracks in his bravado were beginning to show. Beneath the bravado lay fears he could not articulate, and I could see the weight of my confrontation smashing against his polished exterior. He was losing ground. Dad has just been trying to help you, I insisted, my heart racing with a mix of anger and urgency. Look at all the ways he supported you. All while you squandered every chance he gave you. The truth of my words took form, harsh and undeniable, and I pressed on with every ounce of my being. The air in the kitchen grew thick, weighing heavy with the tension as my brother finally deflated under the pressure of reality crashing down. What are you trying to do, Ella? He hissed, bitterness lacing his voice. Are you trying to turn Dad against me? I shook my head. No, I'm trying to save whatever is left of our family. As my brother's expression crumpled, I felt a flicker of sadness deep within. What happened to you? The brother I once admired. You used to be so full of dreams, but now I'm just a failure, he retorted, despair creeping into his voice. No, you're not a failure. You just need to see what you have done to acknowledge it and change it. You think I want to confront these issues. You think it's easy to strong-arm the truth of who you've become. It's not, but I have to. I can't stand by and watch this family unravel, I said, my throat tight with the emotions. The air crackled with the weight of my words, a solemnity hanging over us all. My heart raced as the lay tower light dimmed the room, creating a fragile moment, as though time itself held its breath and waited for the repercussions of my confrontation. Slowly my father sat back down, his hands trembling, now understanding the masquerade of trust he had been under. His gaze softened yet darkened with the regret of his ignorance. Son, he began, but the words came haltingly now, the tables having turned. For the first time, I saw confusion, disappointment, and maybe a glimmer of understanding flash through my brother's eyes. The moment felt fragile, rife with unspoken apologies and regrets that thrummed in the silence of the space around us. For the first time, both men had to reckon with the truth, with the consequences of their choices, and I felt the realization that this family needed more than just words. We needed a shift. I hope you understand, I did this for all of us, I murmured, pursuing a deeper connection while the tremors of anger gave way to sorrow, a yearning not to carry this burden of truth alone anymore. The question hung unasked. It felt surreal to hope for something better from this confrontation. Ella. My brother began, his voice barely above a whisper, the defiance slowly melting away, revealing a vulnerability that echoed in the stagnant air between us. I understood then, this was just the beginning. As the dust settled from the chaos I had unleashed, the thick silence enveloped our living room, weighing down on each of us like a heavy blanket made of unresolved emotions. My heart raced. It felt light and heavy at the same time, a peculiar mix of exhilaration and dread as I absorbed the aftermath of my confrontation. The air was still, thick with unspoken words and unshed tears. The scent of burnt popcorn wafted through the air, a remnant of panicked clatter from earlier, but now it barely registered in contrast to the deeper, more profound sense of heartache and betrayal that filled the space between us. My father sat in his favorite armchair, the one that had long become a throne of denial, the fabric worn in spots, shadowed by the years of his blind devotion to my brother. His face was ashen, a canvas of shock and heartbreak mixed with the faintest redness of emotion that I had rarely seen on him before. It was as though he was seeing everything clearly for the first time, and in that clarity, the weight of realization crashed upon him. Ella, he finally whispered, his voice hoarse, breaking the suffocating silence. How could I have not seen it? He said as he ran a trembling hand over his newly grayed hair, his eyes darting between me and my brother, now slumped on the couch, completely deflated. There had been a time when his favorite son would have commanded the room with bravado, but now he was a mere shadow of himself, stripped of the illusion of superiority that had defined him. Maybe because you were too busy handing him everything on a silver platter, I snapped, feeling fire rush through me, emboldened by the memories of years past where my brother's misdeeds were met with chuckles while I was left with the scraps, never having earned a moment of attention. The pleasure of speaking my truth surged like adrenaline in my veins, urging me on. You made him believe he was untouchable, Dad. You made him this way. His expression shifted, a cocktail of guilt mixing with confusion. I never meant to hurt you, Ella. You know I love you, don't you? I thought so, I replied, narrowing my gaze, willing him to meet my eyes fully. I needed him to see me, to really see me, and not just as the second-string daughter overshadowed by my brother's demands. But your love always felt conditional, like it was a favor instead of something I deserved. His brow furrowed as if he were trying to untangle a knot in his mind. I could see the turmoil churning beneath the calm mask he had worn for so long. A mix of sorrow and resolution flickered in his eyes. Ella, I cannot change the past. I thought I was doing the right thing by supporting your brother. I wanted him to succeed, but it was never at your expense, I swear. That's just it, Dad, I said, my voice rising as passion erupted from deep within, fueled by years of pent-up frustration. This isn't about you wanting him to succeed. It's about you wanting him to be the favorite, the golden child. The sacrifices I made for that family, all because I thought that if I was good enough, if I excelled enough, you would finally see me and not overlook me. I gestured wildly as I spoke, my heart battering against my chest as I pulled memories from the depths of my soul. I worked harder, I studied longer, I achieved more. And for what? To be a backup plan. To bask in the shadows while my brother basked in the spotlight? As my voice echoed off the walls, the corners of the room seemed to pulse with energy, a shocking vibrancy that juxtaposed the heavy atmosphere. It was as if the very essence of truth was trying to break free from the suffocating weight of lies that had settled over our family. The look on my father's face was one of disbelief. I didn't know. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of regret. My brother's head snapped up, his expression one of incredulity. What are you talking about? You were always there, Ella. I didn't make you feel that way. You could have come to me. Hercules could have used his powers to lift the boulder off his chest, but he didn't because he didn't realize the boulder was there, I countered sharply. You never noticed, you only saw what you wanted to see. The irritation poured from me. You took everything from me while basking in your entitlement. Don't you see? My brother pursed his lips, insecurity flickering across his face. You could have just told Dad how you really felt. That's exactly what I am doing right now. It's called having a voice. I shot back, the fire within me igniting more of my courage. But you've always silenced me, haven't you, just by being yourself? My father grimaced, and I could sense his struggle. Listen, I need to digest what you just told me. It's not easy for me to hear. I brushed a hand through my hair, fighting against the wave of emotions crashing in on me. Digest? You have no idea what you put me through, both of you. Every time I succeeded and you devoted your praise to him, I felt smaller. The weight of expectation began crushing me. You may have erased my victories with a simple smile aimed at him. My brother scoffed. Come on, stop playing the victim. This is too dramatic. Dramatic. I couldn't help the laughter that bubbled up from my chest, ironic and disbelieving. Newsflash, little brother, emotions are real. Life is a hell of a lot more than your entitled games. What I did tonight was expose our family's truth. You just didn't want to hear it. His eyes, wide with disbelief, seemed to absorb my words slowly. I could see him working through the pieces of my confrontation, trying to reconfigure a narrative that would make him come out unscathed. And what do you hope to get out of this? He asked, the annoyance in his voice barely masking his growing confusion and annoyance. I'm reclaiming my right to feel hurt, to feel unseen, and to feel betrayed, I said firmly as my pulse quickened. You might think this is just me throwing a tantrum, but this is my reality. A deafening silence followed as my father shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Ella, you need to give your brother a chance to explain his side. I'm not interested in his side, Dad. His reality has never been mine, nor will it ever be. The anger pulsed within me, fueling every ounce of justice I sought. For once, I want you to listen to me. At that moment, my brother rarely took responsibility for anything. I could see the walls surrounding him begin to crack, the entitlement that had been his shield starting to give way. Ella, I am sorry. I thought getting your attention showed how much of a brotherly bond we had, but you're right. I took you for granted. Sorry does not cut it. You had everyone believing you were the star of the show while I was relegated to the background. You think it is all about being sorry? My voice lost its fury, replaced by something softer, something more fragile, despair. Every time you went out superseding me in achievements, I felt your overshadowing presence steal every ounce of pride and joy I felt from my own victories. My father's face twisted in remorse, his brow furrowed as he struggled to process the consequences of a lifetime spent favoring my brother. I watched as he sorrowfully rubbed his face, and I sensed the struggle of someone realizing how their choices had caused irrevocable